Good
All right. All right. Three.
start.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Freight Master Resources. We are live with Todd
Good
from
start.
yep CoreFund Capital. Welcome, Todd. Hello, everyone,
Hey, thanks.
and
Good to be
welcome
here.
to another
Appreciate you
episode
having
of
me.
Freight Master Resources. We are live with Todd
Good
from
start.
yep CoreFund Capital. Welcome, Todd. Bear with me. Hello, everyone,
Hey, thanks.
and
Good to be
welcome
here.
to another
Appreciate you
episode
having
of
me.
Freight Master Resources. We are live with Todd from
Good start.
yep CoreFund Capital. Welcome, Todd. Bear with me. Hello, everyone,
Hey, thanks.
and
Good to be
welcome
here.
to another
Appreciate you
episode
having me.
of Freight Master Resources. We are live with Todd. I am getting some kind of feedback all of a sudden. I do apologize, everyone. I thought I had all the little tweaks and everything worked out here.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here.
So
Appreciate you having
bear
me.
with me one second. We are live with Todd. I am getting some kind of feedback all of a sudden. I do apologize, everyone. I thought I had all the little. Okay, there we go. Why is this not popping up for me now all of a sudden? Can you still hear me okay, Todd?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
just fine.
Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm not sure why that was doing that. It just kept like replaying in my ear for some reason. It's kind of distracting. To start over, we're here today with you live. Todd from CoreFund Factoring. Um, Todd, go ahead and tell us a little bit about CoreFund.
Okay, so CoreFund is a freight bill factoring company. Was started in 2014 by my boss, Bonnie Castillo, who is an industry veteran. Has been in transportation factoring for 20 plus years. Her and I have known each other for going back, I guess, 12 or 13 years now from a previous freight bill factoring company that we both worked at. Bonnie had risen up through the ranks. She's been with a few different factoring companies, so she's got a real well-rounded experience out there with some of the big players that exist. And she was tapped in 2014 to start CoreFund, and she did that. Started it from scratch and built it up with a focus on small to medium sized trucking and transportation companies.
Awesome. Awesome. So, one of the questions that I think gets discussed a lot in regards to factoring is recourse and non-recourse. Now, does CoreFund offer recourse or non-recourse or both?
CoreFund offers both, and this gets asked a lot. And I think that the reason there's so much confusion is because people that are working in this industry either don't know how to explain it right or don't choose how to explain it right.
Right.
Simply put, non-recourse means that we as the factoring company are going to take the credit risk on the broker or shipper that we have bought that invoice for that load for.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it means. That's all it should mean. Although there's been some inconsistency in the past, and with other companies who have tried to, whether they meant to or not, but have I guess confused people by putting in strange escape clauses for themselves, like they would have to file bankruptcy in order for the factoring company to absorb the loss on behalf of the carrier. So it was like a loophole for the factoring company to get out of taking that hit, which is not what it's supposed to be. That's not what it is here. It's basically credit insurance. So it's if you are on a non-recourse program and we have credit approved that customer and purchased those invoices or loads, we are on the hook for the credit part. The other side of the coin is issues that happen with a load, like damage, claim, any type of dispute over being late, anything that would happen on the load, that would be a dispute or an issue between, say, the carrier and the broker or the shipper, is not something that's covered by non-recourse. Not here, not anywhere. The only part that's covered is the credit. So again, if they are unable to pay, not if they're not willing to pay. That's the big difference.
Right. Right. That's an excellent way of describing all of that. That was great. And then another pretty popular question that I see quite often is rates. I see, especially like on Facebook and the groups, people talk about factoring rates, and I see some very wide, it's very, very open. So
Yeah.
typically, what kind of rates does CoreFund offer?
So yeah, like you said, it's kind of a wild west, right? I've been doing this for 15 years, and I will have conversations with guys who'll say, "Oh, I've got an offer for 1.5%," and that's all that they've either been told or that's all that they understand. Oftentimes that's just the tip of the iceberg, and it really depends on who you're talking to. The rates, the options, the additional fees that are in contracts really run the gambit, right? So it's confusing on purpose, which is unfortunate. It really shouldn't be that way, but it's like a buyer beware, market. With CoreFund, what we have done and what we continue to try to do is to make it simpler, make it easy. These guys' job, these guys and gals, right? Their job is to run their trucking company and build it and grow it and get customers and take freight from A to B without, damaging it or worse, hurting anybody, right? And take care of themselves and their family. They shouldn't. We believe they shouldn't have to also have a background in legal to be able to understand what's in their factoring agreement and what they're on the hook for. And too many times I get calls from people who thought they had a 1.5 or a 1 or whatever they thought it was that was great, that enticed them to sign on with, enter name a factoring company here, only to find out that they were also getting charged for this, that, the other, and it's going to cost them $5 or $8 or $10,000 to try to break that agreement. So it's very confusing. I wish it wasn't that way, but unfortunately, it is, depending on who you are, getting into bed with, and for factoring. So all that background being laid on you guys, with CoreFund, you can expect a rate anywhere between 1.5% and 4%. Okay, for standard over-the-road trucking type clients. We work with all different types of trucking. We work with intermodal, guys that are pulling containers and moving chassis in the port or in a rail yard. We work with construction type companies or oil and gas truckers, and we have some different programs. But to sort of give you a broad range, it can be anywhere between 1.5 to 4. It's based on your volume. How much are you going to send through us? The larger a company, the less overhead for us, and the better we're able to do on the pricing. Industry matters. There's different risks involved with different niches in trucking. So industry matters. And then, of course, the strength of your broker or shipper customers is heavily considered. Are they fast payers? Are they slower payers? Are they 21-day pay? Are they 75-day pay or 90-day pay? All of that comes into play. And that should and would be explained to you as we have that initial conversation about pricing. But if I have to, paint a broad brush, I would say it could be anywhere between 1.5% and 4%. Of course, there's recourse and non-recourse. All of those things are considerations. So the important thing when it comes to pricing is to be talking to someone who knows what they're talking about, cares about learning and understanding what you're doing, what your business is all about. Because if somebody flashes a percentage at you that sounds really enticing, but they don't understand your business, maybe that rate was for dry van, and you are hauling windmill parts, and 2 weeks later they can't offer you the same thing. Now everyone's time has been wasted. So it's really important to kind of dive as deep as you can, or how much you have time for, on that first conversation. And if somebody's not asking you these types of questions, trying to understand and get to know you and your business and what's going on, so that they can give you the best possible pricing they have to offer, but also be upfront and transparent with you about what it's going to be and what they are able to offer, then you probably know you're already going down maybe not the greatest path. So that was a super long-winded answer to your question, but I feel that what I said, what I added to it, is relevant. So I hope that is understood and helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was just going to say how important transparency was. When you, like you mentioned, when you get into bed with a factoring company, so you don't kind of get caught. So yeah, that was perfect. We've already got some questions. Victor, I'm going to start to ask Todd some of your questions, but we will open this up to Q&A at the end. So I guess if we need to kind of break in between, we'll try to streamline that as easily as possible here. Victor, this is for trucking. He said, wow, oil and gas. And do they check your personal credit?
We do check personal credit, yes, and it is it's a hard inquiry on the credit report. So that's something that I always make sure a client knows before they send in an application with us, that we are going to go ahead and pull that credit report. Now, we're not looking for a FICO score. It doesn't have to be. There's no FICO score requirement. We're not a bank. We're not looking for a 700 or a 600 or anything like that. The reason that we pull personal credit is because having so much experience as we do in the industry, we know from past experience that personal credit is a reflection of how a business is going to be ran. So that if we see, and we're really looking for major concerns, like any major criminal activity. We've seen bank fraud, we've seen bank robbery. And that none of this is about passing judgment. This is about protecting our company and protecting our employees from and making sure that we know who we are getting into business with. So we're looking for scary things like that, and we're not looking for a FICO score. We understand that we're not going to see 800 credit scores. I don't even have an 800 credit score. So we're not looking for that. In the normal course of being a business owner, there's going to be things that happen, right? There's going to be obligations that are behind or have gone unpaid. You guys know what I'm talking about. We're not looking for a perfect credit score or even a better than average. We work with all types across the board. This is why we're here, is to help all types of business owners, regardless of that. Again, it's really, the reason we pull it is to look for the scary stuff.
Right. Okay, great. Another question that I get that pops up quite often is, how quickly do you pay carriers that are factoring their invoices through you?
So I'll answer that in two parts. A client that is already signed up with us and sends in freight bills by 1 p.m. Central, we're in Texas, we're gonna fund those bills the same day. And when we fund, we send out funds typically in three ways. We'll either send it out ACH, which if we send, let's say for example today on a Thursday, those funds are typically in a client's bank by Friday. So we've processed, we've funded, we've sent out funds, and because it's ACH, your bank will typically post it next day. That's what probably 95% of our clients do on a regular basis because it's free. We don't charge anything additional, and your bank isn't going to charge you anything for the incoming for processing it. We can send a wire. So let's say it's Friday and you've got to have funds in your bank account, that afternoon, and you get us some freight bills in the morning. You need a wire transfer done. We do that for only $10. There's other companies that charge 15, 25. I've seen $50. I don't know why, but we charge $10 because that's what the bank charges us to send it. Your bank is probably going to charge you something for an incoming wire. So I encourage my clients not to do a wire unless it's an emergency and you really got to have those funds, sent and received same day, but it's an option. And then we also do transfers onto a fuel card. We'll do them onto our CoreFund fuel card at no additional charge. And I think it's $5 to, if you're using another fuel card that's not ours.
Okay. Victor asked if you're smartphone capable as far as being paperless. So, do you have an app that they can?
Well, we are. We don't have an app today. We're building one. But in terms of, logging into your account, you can do that from your smartphone. You don't need an app to do that, but we are building an app to make it a little more streamlined. And then in terms of sending in paperwork for funding, you just email us the rate confirmation. And I know I'm talking about over-the-road trucking, so it depends on the paperwork you have, but you just email us your paperwork for funding.
Sure. I hope that answered your question, Victor. I saw that question was kind of in 3 parts, and I sort of summarized all of that for him. So how long are CoreFund's contracts? Short-term, long-term, 1 year, 2 year?
We can do whatever makes sense. Most of the time we're doing a 90-day contract, which is a lot shorter than most others offer. Most companies, especially the big ones, are having you commit for a year. Right. We can do a year, but it's pretty rare that we do. It's like with your larger fleets, like maybe 50, 75, 100 trucks, where we really get into the weeds on the agreement and the pricing, we might do a longer term contract. But typically for a smaller fleet, like 5, 10 trucks or less, or owner operators, we offer 90-day contracts. We also do 6 months occasionally. Like if we run a promotional price, we may do a 6-month agreement. But we do offer 90-day agreements.
That's awesome. That's actually some of these questions I'm asking you are typically questions that I see a lot of, right? And to learn a little bit more about CoreFund. But so many times I hear these horror stories. I'm locked in for 2 years, and I've been, I'm like 9 months in, and now I'm just stuck. Mm-hmm. That kind of a thing. So that's awesome.
I have those conversations every day with these guys. They don't. The worst part is they weren't told how it worked, and so they say, I've been with them over a year, so my contract's done, and it wasn't the case, because the contracts renew automatically. Just like your cable or your cell phone or whatever, they renew, and then they make it really difficult to end that, to stop that from happening.
Right.
So it's so much more about, again, kind of dipping, kind of going back a little bit to pricing. There's so much more that goes into this, and it's hard to explain sometimes from the chair I'm sitting in, but there's so much more that goes into it than, calling and saying like, the guy's offering me 2% or 1.5%. There's so much more behind that. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You really got to drill down and ask the important questions so that you know exactly what you're signing up for.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some of those contracts, you almost really need to be a lawyer reading through some of them. They've got Seriously. It hidden in the fine print and everything, and kind of going back to how key transparency is,
Yeah. I mean, look, our factoring agreement was written by an attorney too. As a business owner, you're going to have an attorney write your agreement for you to protect you, right? And that's okay, but you've got to have somebody client facing that can explain what's in there to your clients and is willing to explain everything that's in there, not gloss over, not gloss over anything or hide anything. So that's what you get with me. That's what you get with us. Our 90-day contract auto renews. But I'm going to tell you that, and I'm going to tell you how to end it if you need to. Not only that, but there's no minimums. So let's say you go on vacation for a month, or you park your truck because something happens and you need to, right? You're not going to be on the hook for 3 months worth of fees because you had something come up, either that you chose to not run or were unable to run. So many of these contracts, they make you factor everything, and they have you on the hook for a certain volume that you have to factor per month, or you're penalized. That is, it's almost predatory.
Right.
That's not what we're about. We have an agreement, and we have a term, because we have to make sure that we're taken care of and that we can pay our employees, and that we're not signing people up, putting in the effort, putting in the resources, and then they bail a week later or 2 weeks later for a competitor. So that's why we have an agreement. We want you to stay with us. We want you to commit to us for the work that we're going to do. But staying with us doesn't mean that you're penalized for, if something were to happen and you couldn't run. It's just about whether it's just keeping you from jumping around from factoring company to factoring company. I talked to too many guys. I just talked to an owner operator 2 days ago that wanted to leave, and it was going to cost him $8,000. Like, where does that even come from? $8,000 in termination fees? Right. So basically, what's he going to do? He's stuck.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It really is. Victor has another question, but as I'm kind of sitting here, thinking about one of his previous questions there, and everything, do you factor invoices on the weekends or Saturdays?
So we are open on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we can process invoices, and we can send funds out to a fuel card. We're also open until 7 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Okay. And then you mentioned fuel cards. Victor was asking if you offer perks like fuel cards.
We do, yeah. We have a CoreFund fuel card. It is hosted by EFS. Nationwide, some of the deepest discounts that you can get across all major fuel pumps. Of course, there are all types of fuel cards. You can get, for example, a popular truck stop has a fuel card, and you may be able to get a better discount at that one truck stop. Ours is oriented to give you the most possible stops to get discounts at. So nationwide discounts, discounts on insurance, discounts on maintenance, roadside assistance, tires, cell phones. It's called FTS Plus. If you want to, look it up, or if you contact me, I can send you a flyer that's got all the information on there. But obviously, the big one is the fuel discounts.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Did you have anything else that you would maybe like to add that maybe I hadn't brought up, or?
You kind of hit on the big ones. Those are the big questions that I get, and the most common complaints that I get about where they are and why they want to leave. I always get asked about rate, which I understand, of course, and then contracts. And then, like you said, I get complaints about they said this and that on the front end. It all sounded great, and now the service is garbage, and I can't get out. And so, that's the big reason to really understand what is in your agreement on the front end, and to do everything in your power to partner with a company that doesn't do that to people.
Right. Okay, guys. I'm going to open this up to some Q&A. If you guys have if anybody else has any other questions and that kind of a thing. As always, I've got the links down in the description below. You can get a hold of Todd at CoreFund Capital. Just click the link down there in the description. It shouldn't be buried. It should be right there at the top for everybody. So, One other quick question is, how long does it take when someone reaches out to you to get set up to factor their invoice through? What's the average turnaround time to on something like that?
So, from our end, it's typically 24 to 48 hours from receiving an application to being ready to start funding those invoices. The most common delay is just that I'm not getting, the paperwork back from the carrier, which, is understandable. Sometimes these guys are on the road. But I've actually gotten calls in the morning and funded somebody that afternoon.
Wow.
So, if somebody has really got their stuff together, it's got their carrier packet and calls and is serious about getting going, we have the ability to do that. But, more common is, I'd say, 24 to 48 hours for setup.
Okay. Awesome.
We move fast on our end. We don't require a lot, and we don't have to do a lot. We just ask for an application, a proposal, which I would send you, which would detail the pricing. That way we are all, on the same page about what the terms of the agreement are. You sign the application, the proposal, you send me your driver's license, your formation documents for the company, like articles of incorporation or articles of LLC, and a copy of your insurance certificate. And that's all we ask for. My office processes that, and as long as there are no reasons for us to decline, like I mentioned, some of the personal credit things, if there's a giant tax lien on the business, or if there's another factoring company in place or something like that, we may get snagged. But aside from that, that's when the factoring agreement goes out. It's 99% of it is done and signed electronically. Although I think there's one or two forms that have to be signed by hand and emailed back over. And then we're ready to go.
Okay. I'm still thinking of a few more questions here for you, and I'll try not to keep you any longer than, so let's just say someone, they're looking to become an owner operator. They don't have their authority yet. Maybe they're filing for it right now. Is that something that they need to wait on before they should contact you, or maybe talk to you ahead of time and kind of get that ball rolling a little bit?
It doesn't hurt to talk to me as you're getting started, just to find out what we are about. Let's get the conversation started about what you're, setting up to do. Is it over the road freight? Is it, some type of specialty freight? Are you intermodal? Are you doing drayage? That type of thing. Let me get you some, pricing information and an application just to have it and look at. There's no cost to get started. There's no cost to send in an application. There's no obligation. Our contract doesn't start until you sign the factoring agreement. So by all means, let's have a conversation. Let me get you some information just so that you have it. Maybe you want to, I probably shouldn't say this, but maybe you want to call one or two other places. I mean, that's what I would do. And I would vibe out who I was talking to and what they have to offer and what's in their agreement. What am I signing up for? And make sure that it's a good fit. So absolutely can do all of those things before you have your authority, and that way you are ready to not only get paid for that first load or first loads that you haul once you are up and running, but also so that we can credit check that freight broker or credit check that shipper to make sure that they are a good payer, regardless of whether you send it through us ultimately or not. We'll credit check it for you, and you'll know that they're a good payer. So I would say, the sooner the better. And it just allows more time for anything that would come up, more conversations. There's always more questions. We'll talk sometimes for 30 minutes, and then but there's always more questions. So the more time you have to prepare, I'd say the better.
Sure. Does anybody have any other quick questions for Todd while we've got him on? I actually do. I kind of elaborate on my previous question there on in regards to turnaround time, when they apply. You mentioned 24 to 48 hours. And this is something that you and I had kind of spoken about previously, was that, I've had carriers and brokers alike looking for factoring, and some of the factoring companies that they've reached out to, they've submitted their information and things, and then it's like 2 weeks goes by, a month goes by, and no response. There's no follow-up to anything, and that just kind of spoke volumes to me,
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I cannot understand how a company that doesn't respond, that responds in that amount of time could really, bring on any new clients. I truly don't understand that, because timing is so important in business, and especially in the trucking and transportation business. Sometimes immediately is not fast enough. So I do everything I can to respond to people, regardless of whether I've advanced a file or whether I'm waiting on something from either my client, or maybe my underwriters are doing some digging or whatever. They're maybe they're held up by a state filing or something they're trying to get. I always update my clients in the same day, even if I have to sit there at night and respond to people just saying, hey, I'm sorry I didn't have an update for you today. I'm going to have it for you tomorrow, or something like that. And I can't understand, I can understand a day, maybe a day or two, depending on what's going on. I can't understand a week or two. That makes no sense to me. So,
right.
Like I said, we move pretty quick. We're family owned. We're private. We don't have to ask for permission to do things. We've got, industry experts. We know what we need to do. We know what we need from our clients, and it isn't rocket science, So we know what we need. We know the process, and that's why we can get things done quickly.
Right. Again, guys, if you want to get a hold of Todd, talk to him about factoring your invoices through CoreFund Capital. Again, link to the website is down below. Be sure to hit him up. I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds just in case we do have a little bit of a lag. It doesn't look like we do, but just to be on the safe side. If anybody has any other quick questions for Todd while I've got him on. I feel like I need to have some sort of background music,
Yeah, like Jeopardy music or something.
Right.
Well, maybe we answered everybody's questions.
Could be.
Or think of it later, because that happens a lot too. There's so much information to digest. Sometimes the questions come at night or the next day, and so that's totally fine. I get it.
Right. Okay, well, Victor, thank you very much for your questions during the video. Todd, I really appreciate having you on. I would like to do this again with you sometime, maybe kind of dig a little deeper into the world of invoice factoring. I think we covered, like you said, some of the more common questions, that seem to arise, when it comes to invoice factoring and that. But again, I really appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us, answering some questions for us, and telling us a little bit more about CoreFund Capital.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm always happy to talk about factoring. Sometimes too much, so you can shut me up if I start rambling. But yeah, it was fun. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'd love to come back and do it again sometime.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap